Hello everyone and welcome to the 8th episode of Java Kickstart, and today's topic is going to be arrays, and as usual all of the lessons are based off of Absolute Java by Walter Savitch. Lesson we discussed inheritance, and we talked about the super keyword in which you can access things from the parent class. We also talked about how you can access the methods and variables that are in the parent class in a new child class and how you can build on that. And so if you didn't watch that last video, you don't have to go back. I would recommend you do, though, to keep things in order. However, this one is a little bit unrelated to most. So we're going to start with something called an array. So say, for example, let's of course introduce the main. Let's say, for example, I want to store several values, okay? And so that's not necessarily just one value. Like I can go int a equals 1. But let's say, for example, I also want b equals 2 and c equals 3 and 4, and that's going to be a pain. Like that is going to be a terrible, terrible pain to just have all of the possible numbers you're going to want. Well, luckily, Java is great and introduces something called an array. Let's say numbers equals new int. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so an array is a list of values. Okay, so if you think about how lists work, so let's look at numbers and let's think of let's put this in a comment. So numbers right now is storing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and it stores it under one name, and that's called numbers. Okay, and say, for example, I want to access, say I want to get number 2. Well, I can look at it this way, is that this is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and so say, for example, I want to print 3. Okay, I can go at index 3. Okay, and so what's going to get, index 2, sorry. So what it's going to give me is it's going to output 3. Okay, but say, for example, I don't want to set the values. What if I just want to have it open? Well, you have, I'm going to call it open array. There you go. You can set a length to your array. So for example, this array is of size 5, which means it stores 5 numbers. Okay, and so I'm doing the same thing here. Okay, now if I want to set these values, let's introduce a for loop. Okay, int I equals 0, I is less than open array dot length. Now this will just give you 5. The dot length will give you the length of the array, and then I++, and so there you go. Okay, let's go times 2, just to, actually, how about plus 5, just to make things a little bit interesting. And then let's print open array at index 2. And so at index 2, that should mean that we have 3, because the index is different. Sorry, it should be 2, which means we should get 7, as we see here. Okay, now what if I want to print all of that? Well, that's where for loops come in handy, and that I can print all of the values 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, because we have index 0, index 6, index 1, 2, 3, and 4. So arrays are very useful in that you can store pretty much anything. You can store lists of values. It's so much easier than having the pain of, listing all of this and then accessing all of that and then doing all the math for it. You can just do that all, but you can do it in indexes. Okay, well, I'm sure you're asking, does that only work for integers? No, it works for anything. Strings, doubles, floats, booleans, you name it. You can put any data type, and you can put it into an array, which is a list, and then you access it from the index. Now, again, remember the index always starts at 0, okay? And these arrays make your code a lot more organized, just makes it a lot simpler. And instead of having like, listing it out yourself, you can use for loops, which we learned before, to set and print and do really whatever you want with it. Arrays are very essential. You're going to use it a lot, and that's why I saved it to the end of the series so that it's fresh in your mind because of how essential it is. And so again, there's obviously more complex things you can do with arrays, but for now, this is what I think you need to be able to be a good programmer with arrays. And so that's all for today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.